Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. Inside this already partially open package is an iPad. I think it's a 3rd gen, and I think it's going to be running iOS 5. I'm not 100% sure, but you guys will know from the thumbnail of this video. So let's get it opened up. Alright, so this does feel like a 3rd gen iPad. I've opened way too many of these, so I kind of get a feel for the different models. The 3rd gen was actually kind of thicker and heavier than the 2nd gen, and this definitely feels that way. Let's see if this thing has any power. And it does. We are met with the old style Apple logo, which is a great start. That means we either have iOS 5 or iOS 6. I'm expecting iOS 6 if this is the same listing that I remember purchasing based on the photos, but we'll find out in just a moment. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go through the setup screen here. Hopefully we don't have any problems. And once we're at the home screen, we'll pick back up and see just exactly what specs our iPad has. And look at that. This is iOS 5. I was not expecting that. I thought for sure this was iOS 6. But there we go. Look at the YouTube app. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but this is definitely a Retina display. This iPad 3rd gen running iOS 5 is super hard to find. I don't know why it's so difficult. Probably because not many people bought the 3rd gen to begin with. And of course we do have over-the-air software updates. Let's see which version specifically we have. So 5.1.1, that is the last version of iOS 5. No complaints there. It's a pretty stable version as far as I know. No iCloud account, obviously. We were able to get through the setup screen just fine. Wow, this is pretty cool. I was not expecting this. I could have swore the listing said iOS 6. And maybe it was just the way they have the apps placed on the home screen that threw me off. But this is a pretty clean device. Let's see just how good of condition that display is in. And there we go. This looks flawless. There's a little bit of dust there, but I'm not seeing any scratches on this device. If we flip around to the back, down here, there might be a little bit of, there's a little dent there. Maybe a few scuff marks around the edges, but overall, super clean. Camera looks good, buttons look good. Headphone jack appears to be in good condition. All right, so let's talk iPad 3rd gen. So this device replaced the iPad 2. And lucky for us, I've got one right here. I actually just unboxed this. I don't know which video is going to come out first, but here's an iPad 2. This one is running iOS 4. Just a camera there. And the iPad 3 looks almost identical to the iPad 2nd gen. The only way you could tell them apart is if you've held a bunch of them and you can kind of feel that the 3rd gen is heavier and a little bit thicker. Of course, the 3rd gen introduced the Retina display, so big improvements in the display. Let's see if the camera will pick that up. So we'll start, actually I'll just put them side by side. Okay. So on the 2nd gen here, you can kind of see the outline of some of those pixels, but on the 3rd gen, the text is super sharp and you cannot see those pixels. So the white color stayed the same. You could get black and white on the 3rd gen as well as the 2nd gen. Interestingly, the CPU is basically identical. It's the same dual-core A5 processor as the 2nd gen, but we got increases in graphical performance. I believe this is the first quad-core GPU that Apple introduced in any of their iOS devices. The iPad 3rd gen also doubled the RAM, so 512 megabytes in the 2nd gen. 1 gigabyte, the first Apple iOS device to get a full gigabyte of RAM, and that was needed for this Retina display. Although I think you'll find if you launch the same game or same application on both of these, the performance will actually be better on the 2nd gen. The reason is because this iPad has 4 times as many pixels than the iPad 2nd gen, so the performance to drive that resolution is not there. That was not until the iPad 4th gen that we really saw those big improvements in performance, and really the first time we got the ability to properly run this iPad Retina display. The camera was improved, so now on the rear we have a 5 megapixel lens, which I will show you guys a photo comparison here. It is substantially better than this second gen iPad's camera. So I'm going to put these up side by side, and we'll move a little closer here. So if we zoom in, we're going to try to zoom in here on the charging port. You can see just how blurry and grainy that is on the iPad 2nd gen. Over here on the 3rd gen, much cleaner and crisper picture. Of course, we do have the Retina display, which is helping us, but the difference is substantial. Look over here at the lines on the iPhone 4, and then just how clean they are here. So big improvements in the camera. The front camera stayed the same. It's still a 0.3 megapixel on both of them, but the rear camera got a substantial upgrade. I think it's the same lens as the iPhone 4, but I'm not 100% sure. So let me show you guys the difference in thickness here. And I'm gonna have to rotate my phone so I can get close to the table. So as we approach the bottom here, you can see that the black iPad on the left is just a little bit thicker than the white iPad on the right. It's gonna be pretty hard to tell here. Let me try something. So if we switch here to the ultra wide angle lens and then get really close, you can kind of see it there. But it's not that obvious. So in terms of rarity of these devices, I don't know which one is more difficult to find. I would almost say the 3rd gen on iOS 5 is more difficult because of the over-the-air software updates. So this device could be updated on the iPad itself. You can see there it wants us to update to 8.4.1. Of course, we're not going to do that. I'm going to turn off Wi-Fi so it doesn't even download. The 2nd gen, the only way to update it would be to connect it to a computer, which many people didn't do after the first activation. So it's understandable that there are still quite a few of these that are running iOS 4 because they were just never plugged in. So I think that's going to do it for this video. Probably going to make a jailbreak guide on this 3rd gen just to kind of show you guys how to do that. I'm not so sure how to do it on the 2nd gen, but I think I've got a good method here. Although now that I'm thinking about it, that's for iOS 6. So don't expect an iOS 5 jailbreak video just yet, at least not on the iPad 3rd gen, because the A5 processor poses some challenges for that, and I don't have the correct tools. So there you have it. That's been a look at this iPad 3rd gen running iOS 5.1.1 in almost flawless condition. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.